Okay, we finally back. Yeah. So I'm gonna do my third stream attempt. Essentially, what happened before was I had a bunch of issues with my system. Then I had a bunch of issues with the tool I want to try. But now I figured out it was not the tool that was dumb, but it was me that I was dumb. I mean, that can be reported as a bug or not. Let's say something that's not intended, but still I was able to pretty easy get around it by reading some docs. So now I want to get into the chat. There it is. And if you guys have questions, if you guys have feedback, anything you have, please be there. Yeah. So hi, let's do it now, man. I found the issue. So take a look at that. So let's start. Now my idea was to play around with shortcut generators and shortcut links in order to get some kind of an RC or foothold. And then I was using the project from userware. If you don't know what that is, it's this repository right here, which is a shortcut link generator. Now that shortcut link generator is possible to be executed only from Linux system, whereas you don't need to have any Windows system at all for testing. And essentially it can do a lot of stuff, and now we are just exploring it. Now it uses Wine, and essentially if you have missing dependencies for PowerShell, you need to pretty much download the MSI, like this one here. No, not that, but that. If you have PowerShell issues, you have to download this one and install that as a Wine. So Wine file, and you're gonna get that installed and it should be fine. When you install all of that and you clone the repository, inside the folder you have the script shortcut gen.sh. And essentially that's from where everything happens, and we have good documentation for it. So if you pay close attention and you scroll a little bit down, we have docs for it, which we didn't read before. And that was the issue. So the issue we faced, and the issue I'm going to report, is that if you don't specify a full path to the command, it gets your desktop environment. So let me tell you what I mean. So on this pane, actually I'm gonna, should I use Tmux? Let's use Tmux. Do I have cross copy? No, I don't think so. Let's use Tmux. So Tmux here. Okay. Then we're gonna also do one pane there and one pane there. Okay, perfect. Now here we can start an in packet SMB server called share. Use the current directory, which is desktop shortcut gen -ts -debug and -smb to support. Now, why we use in packet? Because when I generate a shortcut payload, I want just to easy copy it between machines and not waste that much time. With SMB, it's, I think, the easiest way. And now on the left hand side, we can generate the payload. Now what we did before was, I don't have history, but never mind, was shortcut key gen. We did -p LNK because we need to specify the payload to be LNK or desktop for Linux machines. And yes, these two can also target Linux machines. Then you can do -c, and here we specified curl.exe, which was the issue. Now I'm going to show you what happened. Then we specified -a for arguments, and now here we can specify the IP address, which is that one. So HTTP, paste, it works like that. Then the output can be something like curl.lnk. We did that, and when we did that, after I get the payload, so let me first start my HTTP server. Okay, and after we get the payload, let's see what happens. So I'm gonna open a new Explorer. I'm gonna delete these because we don't need them. I'm gonna also stop my Defender because for whatever reason, I have Defender on command VM. I don't know why, it's disabled and I have it. Now when that thing happens, we can simply do that. Use my IP, and from here we can get the payload itself. Now, what happened and what was the issue is that when you open the properties, you have these desktop settings. So it wants to get curl from desktop, which is not possible because curl is not here. And I think that was a bug. That is kind of a bug to the interface because it automatically uses the desktop if you don't specify a path. But you can specify a path here. So I can regenerate the payload, but in that case, instead of specifying just curl.exe, you can specify C, Windows, System32, and then curl.exe. And now I'm gonna run that. The payload is generated. I can reload, and I'll get the new one. And I have an issue. Okay, let me try something else. Let me try with single slash, like that. Refresh. And there it is. So it uses native slash escaping. So you needed to do only one forward slash in order to make it work. And now that thing is a valid one. We have C, Windows, System32, curl.exe, and here. So we can pretty much execute any command we like. So I can do OK. I can, for example, copy that to be here. And from there, we can simply do a run. And that should be fine. Boom, there it is. So that means we can pretty much execute any command we like. And that was the issue we faced before. So that was the whole thing. Yeah. Okay. Now, what I want to do next is to read more about in the docs to see how we can further weaponize that. So let's see. And that's by locally downloading the payload and executing it. Generate a shell LNK then pack it with dynamic link library dropper. Oh, that's nice. So we have MSM Venom for payload generation. This generates the DLL. Then we have MSF console to start the listener. Then we have shortcut key again. Oh, that's so OP. Let me try that. I think that's nice. So we can generate the payload. However, here I do not want to test with Metasploit. I want simple shell stage servers TCP. L host is gonna be TH0. L port is gonna be 4444, and format is gonna be DLL. That's fine. Now here we don't need the web server because we're not gonna do web requests. We're gonna need NCAT listener. So MVOP 4444. Okay, because the port is what we chose here. We have a payload syntax error. So it's Windows x64 shell reverse TCP. Is it invalid? Shell? Is it like that? No, that's staged. I don't want it to be staged. Why I don't have that? Let's see, minus list payloads, and I wanted to grab shell reverse TCP. Shell You mean to tell me that the MSF Venom from the newest Kali is broken? Seriously, offensive security? I mean, for real? That's a brand new VM, and I have no MSF Venom payloads. Okay, can I do MSF DB init. And error. Can I do run? That's bad. I have a new window, a new Kali VM machine, and that no MSF Venom payload. That's crazy. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, now we did it. Now we did it. But we have another issue. I don't know why that's the case. Let's see if I have paywalls now. After running the DB. Nope. Can I do sudo apt get install NSF Venom? Okay, I don't have an idea why. Let me try to debug now. NSF Venom no paywalls? Hmm. Okay, so no encoders, no paywalls, just platforms. And that's the default. That's the default Kali right off the bat. Is the sound good? So I think it's okay. But if it's loud, let me know. Oh, what's going on? Okay, we need to try to reinstall that. Can I do purge? I can. Yeah, let's do purge. Let's do purge and then clean installation. So with the new Kali, they messed it up the MSF Venom and Metasploit framework. I don't know how, but they messed it up. MSF Venom? Perfect. Now let me try to do exactly as it says here. So can I just do sudo get install like that? Let me try to reinstall that. And I have an error. How they can mess up? Yeah, the music. Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. Because I do. You should now. You see that. But I hope it's fine. Okay, what do we do now, chat? What do we do now? Is there a solution to this issue? Okay, so there is a temporary one. Bundle exec. Can I install older version of Metasploit? No, that's bad. Let me try for sudo apt auto remove. Today looks like it's not the day for stream, guys. Let me sip another cup of coffee. Yep, nope, not gonna happen. So let me try with something else. Looks like we cannot go with MSF Venom Pad because something super messed up with carry. So we can do something else. Is there an example of that? That's nice, by the way. That looks good. So we have option for PowerShell payloads, HTA payloads, DLL, that's not gonna happen, and then Linux side of thing. We can also relay hashes. Nice. Okay, so let me try the PowerShell thing because it looks like we're not gonna do anything without MSF Venom. We can also try MSHTA. We can swap that with some HTA payload. Let's see. Okay, so let me first try the PowerShell one. So what we can do, we can get a standard PowerShell reverse shell. You can go to ref shells. If you don't know that site, it's so nice because if you go to ref shells, this is a shell generator, which is so nice and easy to use, especially for let's say new into that stuff. So you can have a bunch of options. You can specify what kind of shell you want, reverse bind. There's also an option for MSF Venom and also for Hawk shell, which again I did not use so far. We can also try Hawk shell, by the way. We can also try that. So on the reverse side of things, you can go to PowerShell, pick some of that, and there it is. We have the script ready. Now, of course, we need to modify the IP address. So in that case, our IP is that one. So make sure to paste the IP on the correct place, the port 444, and there it is. We are good to go. So essentially that should work, but we also want to embed that inside the link file. Right. So I have my netcat listener running, or at least I think I have, but I do not. And now what we can try is simply get this payload into an LNK file. So we can also test that locally in the command VM. Do I have copy paste between the machines? Yep, I do. Perfect. So if I open PowerShell and I paste that, it should work. There it is. So I can do command and I have command execution. Perfect. So before creating some kind of a dropper or before creating anything, make sure to first test and debug with small things as possible. So for example, the first step would be, in that exact scenario, to debug if that works. If I can see the machine, if I can get the raw PowerShell shell, and so on. Because if that thing fails, and we directly try the LNK generator and then it fails, then we have two more things to check and it gets more and more complicated depending on how much steps you have. So when you try to develop some POC, a dropper, or anything else like that, make sure, guys, to always start as small as possible. Like first, get your reverse shell going on, make sure it works on your VM or settings, and then try to embed it, and then you can be sure, okay, this works. Now if it fails, it's not that, it's the LNK generator. Right. Now that makes a lot of sense. Now let me go back to here. Let's try to copy the user's example. So this one there. Okay, so based on the docs, we should be able to generate our PowerShell beacon. Now it's an LNK, command is PowerShell.exe, A is that. Oh, we can stage it like that. Yeah, that's a nice example, by the way. That's a nice example. So what this example does is it uses HiEx to essentially stage the execution over HTTP. So what we can do is I can get this payload, which we know now it works, that's super important, guys. And I can paste it here. For example, here. I can do vim payload.ps1. I can paste it and close it. Or actually, I needed to do set paste and then paste it, just to be sure I don't miss anything. So by doing set paste on Vim, you better paste things. Imagine it like that. Okay, now we have the payload in there. We need to do one more thing, however. On this hand side, I need to set up my listener. And on this hand side, I would need an HTTP server. So first here, we're going to generate a link. Now I need to draw that because I think it's important. So let me go to draw.io. So what this is going to do is, first it's going to generate a link. LNK file. This LNK file, we need somehow to deliver it to the command VM. Yeah, like that. So whenever we deliver it, that can be done via, let's say, email, that can be done via dropping USBs in the parking lot. This can be done via many different techniques, but after we deliver it, it's important what this LNK file is going to do. So essentially, when it's dropped on the command VM and it's executed, so here exec LNK file, when the LNK file is executed, then it's going to reach out, it's going to start PowerShell. With this PowerShell process, this PowerShell is going to reach out to our HTTP server. And then on this HTTP server, it's going to read the payload, which is called HTTP staging. Now when the payload is written, it's going to be executed via IEX. And when that's executed, we're going to get a NC callback. So that's the things what's going to happen. So we generate an LNK file, we ship it to command VM, we execute the LNK file, which starts a PowerShell process, which reaches out to HTTP server, which reads the payloads, executes it via IEX, and we get the callback after that's executed. So of course that's not the most basic technique, because as you can see on the diagram, a lot of things might go wrong. For example, here the first part is complicated because you cannot just send LNK files like that. You need to unzip it, you need to embed it inside the ISO file, you need to maybe, if you're in internal network, yeah sure, you can paste in a share and then wait for someone to execute it, but that's another topic. So first problem is the delivery. Second problem is of course the execution, because I'm sure that EDRs and AVs would flag LNK files having PowerShell inside. I am sure. What can be done here is, I think signing can be beneficial. Because right now if you download an LNK file, let me showcase that. If you download an LNK file, like the curl we downloaded, if you go to properties, and then you go to security, actually not here, so you can see on the file is not signed. But I'm looking for one specific option. Yeah, here. This file came from another computer that might be blocked to help protect this computer and block. So essentially, you have mark of the web using that. So you need to avoid mark of the web, and also you need to sign the binary, because if you remember, whenever we execute, we have this security warning. That's because the binary is not signed and it has mark of the web. So if you manage to sign the binary and bypass mark of the web, you don't need that, it's going to automatically open right off the bat. So that's what you need to pretty much avoid. Then after you execute the LNK file and you reach to this point, now also a lot of these issues can also be, a lot of these objects can also be tracked. For example, LNK file starting PowerShell is not a good idea, unless the PowerShell is maybe unmanaged one. Then PowerShell reaching out to HTTP, another IOC that can be detected. PowerShell reads something from HTTP or HTTPS. Then we have IEX and we have NC callback. So usually, in more real life scenario, what we can do is embed an IMSI bypass here. So after the LNK file, actually not here, my bad. After the start of PowerShell, we can do AMSI ETW bypass, and if we do that successfully, then the rest of this can be done without a problem. That's how I would go for the OK scenario. So of course LNK file is generated, but we need to modify it to have some kind of an AMSI bypass inside, and then with that AMSI bypass we can simply start PowerShell, bypass AMSI, and then do all this kind of stuff. Now where you can append the AMSI bypass, one way of doing that is inside the payload.ps1. So essentially the file we're gonna read out. So before the payload we can add an AMSI bypass and then another IEX, which is one way of doing things. The other way of doing things is embedding AMSI bypass inside here. However, I'm not sure how many characters we can support. So we can do things like staging to make it better. So let's start one at a time. Let's first see if that's gonna work and if we can achieve a C2 callback. So here, remove the HTTPS, then from there get my IP, which was that. Then payload.ps1, we specify WinWord as an icon, which is Word, working directory users public, and that's fine, right? I think this did not work. Yep, it did not. So why? Maybe because of the double quote here. I don't think we need that. Still nothing. Is that the path for PowerShell? I'm skeptical about it. Oh yeah, it is. It is. My bad. Okay, so we have the path. Minus A, we can specify just oh wait, we have a double quote issue there. So minus A, we escape the quote here. What if I remove the icon in the working mode? And also that, because we don't need it. Is it gonna work now? Nope. Now again we are into debugging point of view. Oh, let's see now. Okay, so we have LNK, PowerShell, and let me try playing around with that. So here, instead of that many arguments, I can just do write host test like that. Okay, now it works. So we know it's that. So what we can do is convert that to base 64 and use it like with minus C, or we can try it like that. Nope. Nope. What if I remove the single quotes in there? Okay, so the single quotes are bugging things out. So what we can try is to use single quotes here, and here use double quotes like that. Okay, there it is. Perfect. So I can remove post.lnk. I can generate that one for last time. And now what we can try is simply transfer the LNK file and test it. So on the share, I can do refresh. There's the file, paste it there. And here I can simply do properties, PowerShell. Can I enlarge that? I don't know if that's gonna work, but let's try. So my listener is set it up. Let's get this window bigger. So run that, open, and nothing happens. This is gonna happen if I open PowerShell and paste that manually, or actually CMD and paste that. PowerShell IEX. Ah, okay. So set execution. What was that? Set execution policy bypass. Oh. And why there are no quotes? Even though I have quotes here. Yeah, that's so strange. Do we have requests? We do. Yep, we do. So we can read the payload. I think this was easy to fix. But we did it. I don't know why it's triggered again. Now it says the payload is wrong. But the payload is not wrong at all. Let me try something else. Let me try a different payload. So not PowerShell that's... No, not that. Although I don't think that's the issue. Let me see. Let's do simple payload. Let's, instead of that payload.ps1, let's do write host test. Let's see if we can execute that, shall we? Okay, now again, run that. Yeah, okay. So if we do that, because the IX accepts strings, by the way, not raw partial syntax. So if we do that and run the same thing, we see test. Okay, perfect. So now what we need to do is get that reverse shell and encode that with PowerShell codes. So here I can do again vim payload.ps1, remove that and do that. So quotes, paste, and again quotes. And I think that should be fine. So now let me try again, run it, and again we have some issues. Uncategorized token source, okay. Let me try PowerShell. There was one super problem without the problems, but I forgot his name. Nishank, yeah, Nishank. PowerShell. Nishank one-liner. PowerShell. I think that should be fine. So we can try that. Here, code payload.ps1. I think with code should be here, not stare at this small screen there. So new window, again new window. Today everything just decides to stop work, for real. First my VM broke up, then that happened. Paste. Okay. Let's go back, change the IP. Okay. Let's see if something's gonna happen now. Nope. We're gonna have some issues. Why is that? Do you guys have any clue what's going on? Okay, let me see. Can we try with something else? Can we do it like that? So IWR and pipe that to IX. No. That's weird. Okay. I want to try something else. Let me go back to Hog Shell to actually payload shells. Now here I want to copy that. Copy. I want to go to a new window here on the desktop. Then do here vim payload at PS1. And I want to try to manually do it because I'm not sure what is going on now. Okay, so close that. Here, Python 3 minus m HTTP server 80. Now I want to try to manually execute it. So from here, IX new object network client download string that. And now it works. Now the same payload works. Okay, let's debug more now. I can again, actually I'm gonna remove that. Here I can set up the screen and paste the listener there because it's easier to read. And now let me try to debug it that more. So here again, I'm gonna open PowerShell. Now from here, that we know that it works. Okay, but why that thing does not? Maybe because we need -c. -c that it doesn't. Maybe different PowerShell version? No. Now it doesn't work. Okay. What's the issue here? Oh, I think I know it. So we have IX here. New object, name that web current, download string. Or what if we can do and that thing works. I'm kind of confused why. Missing quotes. Unexpected token. That's so strange. That's super strange. So we have some syntax errors as soon as we open PowerShell.exe. That's so weird. Let me try HTA. Something today is super messed up with my environment. I just cannot get over it. It just simply refused to work. Let me try MSHTA payload. Okay, so let's see. That's the MSI, that's the HTA. That's the thing. Okay, so here .sh, mshta.exe. What was the IP? Yeah, this is the one. Okay, minimized. Okay. Actually, don't need that. And let's call that mshta. Okay, it was generated. Perfect. Perfect. Do we have HTA reverse shell payloads in here? HTA. That's a web shell. That uses PowerShell. Oh, so weird. Alright, let's see if I can get the callback to payload.hta. Let's see if I can do it. Without MSF Venom is kind of a pain, to be honest. And I don't know why that's the case with PowerShell. Do you guys have any idea? No, syntax in the payload does not give this error because take a look at that. So here, I'm gonna make screen bigger. If I do run that, which is exactly the same payload, it works. You can see the reverse showing here. There it is. Wait for it. Ah, yeah, we don't have the Python server. Okay. There it is. It works perfectly. Who am I? There it is, the command. GCI, there it is. However, if I spawn a new PowerShell and try exactly the same command, which is that, it fails. Take a look at that. PowerShell -c. Nope. PowerShell. Am I in PowerShell now? No. PowerShell -c paste. Boom. Nothing happens. And here also we have a bunch of issues. So I think of another example. If you use Hawk Shell, so let's try that. Hawk Shell. You can do -s minus okay, and there it is. You have PowerShell payload. So I can try to copy that. Let me try to run it now in here. And now my computer froze. Oh, not that. Never mind. We have it now. And it works. Payload execution verified. There it is. It works. Perfect. So I can exit that. And now I can stage this one here. So instead of me going here, okay, let me try payload 2.ps1. Okay. You again have some issues. And it fails again. It fails to execute that code properly. And I'm not sure what's the real issue here. It was able to retrieve the payload, but not execute the code successfully. Or maybe I'm doing something wrong, because now we have a new payload, and maybe it's signature or signed. So what we can try is modify the payload to paste the Hawk shell payload and reset the Python server. Now in here, we can try exactly the same. And there it is. So essentially the Hawk shell payload is bound. What I mean by bound is that if you generate one payload, restart the Hawk shell and run it again, the same payload's not gonna work, it's not gonna operate, because I think it's encrypted, but I'm not sure. However, if you get the new payload, now it works. So instead of dealing with all that syntax crap and all that kind of thing, we can simply use the Hawk shell payload into getting our LNK file. That sounds like a nice idea, right? Finally, we are getting some progress. So here, what we can try is run Hawk shell and get this payload. And now it's important to get this one here. So I can copy, then move here, and simply do it like that. Instead of IEX, I can try to simply do -E and paste. Boom. That's one way of doing things, because I think this should be capable. So what we can try here is hawks, like that. And we have a restriction for 260 characters. So in that case, we can do how did we do it here? So we have double quotes and single quotes inside. So we can reverse it. Double quotes there, double quotes there, and here we do single quote, and here we do single quote. Now also here we do have -C, so we can do -C. Yeah, okay, so we need to escape that here, and also escape it here. I think that should be fine, chat. I think this should be fine. And also payload 2.ps2. And we don't generate it. Oh, that's bad, that's bad. Okay, can we try it without the -C? Like that? It's still not generated. Why? Why so? Because of the quotes, yeah. We are back to the same problems. Close there. Here. Okay, payload generated. Let's see what we generated, right? So I can go here, open Explorer, refresh, get the post payload, paste it here, replace, and now properties. Do I think that's gonna work? No, but we can try. No. Mm-mm. No. Wait a minute. Is ambiguous. What does that mean? So I think we need to manually modify some of the script contents. Yeah. What I mean by that. So let me try to once again run it manually. Okay. Now if I do that and remove the codes. Yeah, we have the wrong payload again. Okay, my bad. So if I do it here, exit. Okay, now it works. So if we do it directly, it works, which is good. However, from the shellcode, from the shortcut generator, it does not. And we have a bunch of syntax issues. So the first syntax issues is that if you generate the payload like that with reverse quotes, it's not gonna work. So the only way of having that is to actually let me try to follow the docs again. So it's no, it's not here. It's the PowerShell. Yeah, that one. Okay, so LNK, PowerShell, IX, HTTP. Op. Ah. And we don't have to generate. It doesn't work like that. So the 2 is kind of buggy, but 3 is we know that how we can operate with Hawk Shell, and I kind of like it. What are the other options? Woohoo! All of files, indeed. Indeed, all of files. Yeah. So what I think can be possible is that to manually create a shortcut file. I think that can be better. So I think Cocomelon has some good documentation about that. Yeah, that's the one. Persistence via LNK files. So I think it's better to go for the manual approach. Okay, so that's the whole thing. Let's edit it now to desktop. Test.lnk, new object, create shortcut. That's fine. Target path is gonna be the PowerShell path we used. So in that case, the PowerShell path we used is this one here. And I hope I can paste. Yes, I can. Okay, perfect. Paste. Okay, now we have the PowerShell. Now the arguments can be that IEX part, right? So in that case, the arguments can be here. Boom. Okay. Or we can use single quotes. I don't bother about that. Okay. IEX. So we have IEX, new object. Okay. I think that should be fine. Okay, that's fine. Then we have working directory. Let's do C or none. We don't need that. It's not mandatory. We can also trigger that by using a hotkey, which is so smart. We can also try that. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. And we can try to execute it. So I can cd into desktop. And I can try to paste that. Or simply run it. There it is. If I do ls now, you can see test.lnk being there. So I can simply see what's inside test.lnk. We see the WordPad icon. And we have that staging part. Okay, so I think that should work. So in order for me to test it, I'm gonna again start my Hawks shell. Like that. I'm gonna get the new payload. And I'm gonna stage the new payload here. Paste. I'm gonna then stage it. And now let's see what's gonna happen if I execute test.exe. Boom. There it is. It was as simple as that. So as a general, that's a nice way of how you can both go for establishing persistence or maybe initial access. However, I feel that this tool for obfuseware needs to work around the syntax on specific payloads because we tried things from the documentation, it did not work. So maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I don't think that's the case. And we have some broken syntax here and there. So that's how you can use Hawk Shell. Hawk Shell is quite nice. And again, keep in mind that you need to recreate the payloads each time you need to use them because I think they're signed or encrypted to a specific key. And essentially that's how you can achieve a callback. Now, usually what you can do with this LNK file is you can store it on the desktop and hope someone to click, if that's for persistence, or store it in a share. And again, hope for the same, someone to access the share and execute the LNK file. So that's one way of doing things. And also if you aim to use that for initial access, always make sure to encrypt it and to pretty much avoid mark of the web. Because now we created this on the go, we created this on the system and we don't have mark of the web. But if you download an LNK file from any remote machine, it's gonna have mark of the web where it is. Where it was. Oh, there it is. There it is. Wow, these do not have it. Yeah. So in order to avoid mark of the web, I have a video about it. You can use ISO files. You can embed that inside an ISO. And that's how you can pretty much use LNK files. Because if you embed that inside the ISO has markup of the web, but the LNK file does not. And if you embed LNK inside an ISO, you can double click the ISO, it's gonna mount automatically, and double click the LNK file, which is gonna execute the following things. Now, of course, as mentioned, I think it's gonna be best if we now embed some AMSI bypass in here. So for example, we have the payload 2.ps1, but instead of payload 2.ps1, we're gonna do things a little bit more different. So the first thing we're gonna do now is we're gonna copy payload 2.ps1 and we're gonna call that hogs.ps1. So hogs.ps1 is gonna be the same as our payload. And now inside payload 2.ps1, we can remove this logic and do something else. So what we can try here is embed an AMSI bypass, for example from AMSI.fail, generate one, the raster mouse is usually quite good, so get one here, paste it there, and at the end, now you can do IEX, new object, net.web client, download string, and here do again your IP, which was that. So HTTP, IP, and hogs.ps1. That's fine. And now what happens is first we're gonna bypass AMSI, and then we're gonna execute the hog shell, which is how things needs to be. So now we can simply run that, and now we can execute this test shortcut file. Let's see what happens. First we have payload 2.ps1, and then we have hogs.ps1, and essentially we should have the callback. There it is. So that's nice, and that's how usually things must be made, because as mentioned, if we go back to our diagram, you can drop the LNK file, you can execute it, but before this execution to take place, it's going to be scanned. So we need to first make sure there's no static analysis to pick it up, and then after that's executed, it's going to start PowerShell, and when PowerShell is started, it's going to be hooked. And the only way to pretty much get around that and to operate safely is to either use unmanaged PowerShell or bypass AMSI and ETW. And if you bypass that things, then you can reach out, make your staging, execute any stuff with IEX, and then get your callback, which in that case was hog shell. Yeah. So at the end we did it manually. I needed to try this too to see how it works. It has a nice idea. However, I think the developer needs to work on the syntax and to make sure that's no errors. And of course, more testing must be done. And that's why we create such content, testings, give feedback, and report if there's any issues. Because all these things are open source driven, and we are part of this open source. And that's why if we see an issue or something good, we need to report it either way, so the developer knows what is going on. So I enjoy the idea of the tool, but I think that more work must be done here for syntax fixing and to make sure everything works right off the bat. So it has a potential. It indeed has a potential. So from Kali, you can simply generate your payloads and you should be fine. So for now, that was the stream. Do you have any questions so far? Anything you want to discuss? While downloading the binary data, I think that what the error means. Where did you see that here? That error, I kind of get lost. I mean that the syntax where we used the manual IEX worked, and the one where we did not. Why? I think it was because of different PowerShell environments, even though we bypassed execution policy. And I have no idea why it failed, to be honest. But still, we managed to find a way to make our link to work. So one thing that we can pretty much do is essentially make these windows hidden, because we don't want that to be present. Or we can also start WordPad while this is hidden. So that's also one way we can become even better with that. So we can on the one hand side spawn WordPad and make these windows hidden. So the WordPad is going to be completely new process, and if exited, it's not going to affect the beacon itself. So I think that's how we should engage with it. But for now, I think that's far enough. My main idea was to test the tool and see how it works and if it works in the first place. So that was the main idea, and to set up some to work with some shortcut keys, links. Sorry, with shortcut links. Yeah, yeah, me too. Me too. It's buggy. It's buggy. The syntax is buggy, but I also like the idea because if you don't have such tool, you would need a Windows VM to set up everything, like I did. You need a Windows VM to set up all the objects, to test them, and then ship it. But if you don't have much resources and you don't want a Windows environment, tools like that can be super beneficial because you can just simply paste your arguments and you're gonna have a shell. But you're gonna still need to test it before running. So it's kind of a balance, I don't know, but the idea is nice. So I'm gonna message the user or developer to address these issues, and when they're done, we can maybe do a stream together so we can showcase that thing in action. Don't say to you're late again, so I'm just closing the stream. Yeah, so appreciate you guys for being here. I hope you learned something new. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube, so if you missed some point, you can go back and rewatch them. And essentially, I want to appreciate all my patrons for all the support, for making my work possible. And beside that, I hope you learned something new. Bye bye, guys, and see you in the next one.